This episode's sponsored by Vorbos. Check them out in the description below. This is our studio, so we're like, well, let's just start something where we can find, know, where we can use it.
We didn't actually give any context to the studio.
I was about to say, we should probably talk about that.
How this came about, because this was by chance.
Yeah.
This particular studio was by chance, because basically we got to the point where we were recording an hourly episode at another studio, basically where you pay by the hour. The downside to that was that we would often have guests turn up, like up to 10, 15 minutes late, as you do in London traffic, fine. But then they would always cut you off at the hour every hour. So they would come in, even if you're mid-flow.
Dude, can I say that one thing? We were sitting down with Charlie Mullins, who ended up being episode 2. I think he was like the second person we ever sat down with, which is crazy to get someone that big. It was a complete moonshot on Skeeth's part, and we got him. And we're sitting down with Charlie, and we're having a great interview. Charlie Mullins founded Pimlico Plumbers, for anyone that doesn't know, and very successful guy, lovely guy, and it was a great conversation. And we're doing the whole interview, and then it's near the end, and I'm interviewing, I'm asking him something, and as I'm asking him something, I can see, so where I'm sitting, Charlie's facing me, and behind Charlie is the door to the studio, about 5 feet behind that, so I can see the door of the studio as I'm looking at him, and as I'm talking to him, I can see the door of the studio open, and Charlie starts answering, and as he's answering, the intern or whoever the fuck was working at the studio opens the door to the studio, and instead of poking his head round and kind of like, he can see that I can see him, instead of poking his head round and being like, and kind of like giving me a wave or like tapping his watch or telling me to round up with a hand gesture, he pokes his head round, and while Charlie's talking, he goes, "Hey, are you guys done yet? Hey man, what does it fucking look like? What are you doing? Dude, you run a podcast studio. That's the one job you have, is when you see someone talking into the microphone, don't talk.
Stay quiet.
You stay quiet.
Yeah.
It's an A/B.
So I feel like that was like the turning point for us. We were like, we can't do this. Like, so then we were like, okay, we had our guests from Furniture Box, co-founders of Furniture Box, on as were they third or fourth? I think they were.
Furniture Box were our third.
Was it third guest?
Yeah.
And we got on really well with them, and we went for a drink with them afterwards, and just got to know them more, and we were all on the same page, and it was just awesome. And then we got into the conversation of sponsorship, and they believed in what we're doing and where we wanted to get to, and were kind enough to sponsor the podcast when we had no following really at all.
So small.
It was tiny, and which still to this day means a lot to us. And
they really
they helped us get to where we are now.
Furniture Box were a hugely instrumental part in us being where we are.
Yeah,
and we should probably I want to thank them publicly on the air for that.
Yeah, we definitely should.
Because basically with that sponsorship, we had 3 months sponsorship, and we were like, okay, and we were like, dude, with this money, we could pay ourselves, pay me, you, and Barney, or we could invest in our own studio, invest in ourselves,
which was always actually the end goal, because that was always like the dream. We used to talk about it, like how cool would it be to be able to do this in our own studio, and it was finally a possibility. So we thought, okay, well let's double down on the business and let's go for it. Like we just sat down with Charlie, and we've got Furniture Box, and we've got a couple of other big names like coming on. Like let's just double down on the business. And we then went and looked at. Well, initially we had the idea of doing a studio agency, didn't we?
Yes.
As well, like a B2C.
We were gonna do like a rental studio, like the place we were renting.
Like exactly. So we were going to basically do our own studio where we rented it to podcasters to come in by the hour, which is why we needed a very specific type of studio. So we were like, okay, well this is genius. We're basically now using our sponsorship money to get our own studio, but also set up an additional business alongside that. And we were then basically realizing quite quickly that our options in terms of studios was incredibly limited. We were calling brokers just like manically, trying to think, okay, we need this like 24/7 access. I think we needed, and we basically needed someone to take them in and out of the studio with access passes, and like there were so many hurdles to get through for that. And there was one broker that really came through for us, who gave us found us a place in Bayswater. By this point, we'd been around like 2 or 3 places that day, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and they all
Queensway.
Yeah, Queensway. Sorry. And they all had the same problems of like us just not being able to use it all the time, and it just didn't work for the business. Yeah. And so by this point, we were so deflated, and we were like, oh, it's just not going to work. And then the broker called me and said, oh, I've got this other place for you in Queensway. Like it seems to tick all your boxes, so you can go and check it out. And we thought by this point, fuck it, fine, let's go go and see it. And we got there, and it was like the most. It was like the last place you would ever take anybody to interview for a podcast, because it was some like shifty side door. It was
next to a supermarket, and there was like the almost like basically the door to like an estate.
Yeah, basically.
And
yeah, or a brothel.
Or a brothel. Could have been anything. And with a security guard outside.
Yeah.
So it was just really odd.
Really
weird. And when you go in, they take you up the fire escape.
Yeah, you walk on the outside of the building on the way up. Yeah.
And you walk in, and the security guy was the guy giving us the tour, and then we open the door to the floor with all the officers on it, and it's like, oh, someone's definitely themselves.
Oh, 100%. The noose is still in the corner.
Yeah,
like,
the carpet was all the carpet was like a blue, but like a really faded blue that hadn't been changed.
I mean,
it
was
decades.
Knackered.
The walls were like that foamy polystyrene, like cream.
Yeah.
It was just,
and it had the like doctor's white lighting everywhere. It was
so
awful.
bleak.
It was awful. And
it was so bleak.
We walked in, and the guy who was showing us around, and honestly, when we were walking up the stairs, me and you just cracked up.
Yeah,
we were laughing so hard.
We looked at each other before we get to the room, and we're just like, nah,
what we do.
And then we see the room, and actually, the room was a shithole. To be fair,
it was.
However, we were like, well, actually.
The more time we spent in there, the more we were talking about it, the more we were like, actually, this is perfect.
Yeah, well, like, it's very centrally located, and if we clear all this shit out, it'll be fine.
It's got a little balcony.
Yeah.
Just like,
and so we were like, okay, this is pretty good. We measured everything, and then we were like, I think we should take this.
Yeah.
Like, I think we should too.
It was cheap as well.
Yeah, it was cheap. Well, it was actually wasn't that cheap. It was in our budget, which to us was cheap, but it was actually not cheap if you think about it.
True.
And it wasn't that much cheaper than this place.
That's true.
So we said to the guy, we're like, hey, we'd like to put an offer in, like, we want it. Yeah. And he was like, great, okay, cool. So we called the broker, and he was like, yeah, that sounds great, boys. It was all moving forwards. Like, yep, okay, great, I'll lock it off for you. And we're like, when can we move in? We want to move in like immediately. And he was like, yeah, that's great, we'll get it next week, whatever. I'm like, great. And then there's just this back and forth of like chasing
for like a number of weeks. I was chasing the guy constantly to get the contract over to us, to get a lease over to us.
And he was just like a fucking wide boy, and he was like,
a proper wide boy.
He was like, well, I'm away this week and then next week, and I'm like, dude, I don't understand. What I'm trying to offer him money.
Yeah, we're trying to give you money.
We're trying to give you money.
Yeah.
And this is what's so crazy. There's been so many times I feel like with me and you where we've been in business and we're like, we work hard.
You don't need to sell to us.
Like, you don't need to sell to us. We have money. Just give it. We're trying to give you money for your service. We're trying to pay you, and people just fumble the bag and just like at the last. And it makes no sense, because we work really hard to get our clients and then look after our clients and whatever. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, we take care of our clients, but it is a thing of like, we work hard to like find new clients, how to sign them. And so when you have other people with businesses where you're like, hey, I like your product, can I give you money for it, please?
Yeah.
And then they like, well, and you're like, what is happening here?
It makes no sense.
I do obviously have faith in what we're doing. I think it will be really good. I think in terms of the pitch process, I'm trying to figure out a way to refine it, as we've discussed, which is basically one of the issues I noticed that was a mistake in the way that I was pitching, was that you would get on a call with someone and you don't know if they're qualified, and we haven't qualified them before the call. And so what happens is we get them on a call, I'll go through a really long pitch process and go into all the details and answer all the questions, and then I'll say the price at the end. And then what can happen is, and has happened a couple of times, is they're like, oh yeah, we can't afford that. And it's like, if I'd have said that at the beginning of the call and said, hey, this is what the offer is, this is what we do, this is the price, before we go into too much detail, just checking you've got the budget for it. That's something that seems like obvious, but that I wasn't doing. And so you end up wasting like a 45-minute Zoom call with someone who just doesn't have the money, even if they are interested.
No, I agree. That's definitely been a learning curve. For sure, the pitch process.
And I also think when it comes to pricing, and this is, I think, the tricky thing, but obviously at the beginning you don't really know how to accurately price your product, especially because there isn't really anyone doing what we're doing. As we've seen, there are studios in London that offer services, and you can kind of rent their studio, and you can maybe pay an extra fee for it to be edited. There are podcast agencies that are audio focused, and they focus more on like, you record an audio podcast and then they might help you with SEO and whatever, but there isn't actually anyone doing a video B2B podcast agency in London that we have seen.
No, there isn't. Which is surprising.
It is surprising, but
obviously beneficial for us, but surprising still.
Yeah, but also in a way I could see it making sense because of how difficult you basically have to get a studio and then kit it out and then find clients off the back of it and stuff.
It's a huge upfront cost.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of risk.
But what that means is, even though it's great for us because we in a way have a kind of domination over the market in that respect. We don't know how to accurately price our services yet, because we don't really have a frame of reference. We have a frame of reference based on roughly how much we think we'd need to make X amount of profit, and how much we want to, so that we can cover our rent and pay Barney a fair amount and blah blah blah. So we have like a rough guide on some numbers, but we don't actually know the number that we're charging. We started way higher. We started stupidly high, and then we quickly were told to go fuck ourselves.
But that's the way
exactly,
it goes. That's how you learn how to do it. I mean,
exactly.
like, we were coming in at a very like high ticket offering.
Yeah.
As you said, got told to go fuck ourselves. Literally got laughed at.
Yeah.
By some people, and we thought maybe we should refine it a little bit.
Yeah.
And sort of change it up from here. And now we're at a point where we're saying the price, and people aren't really blinking.
Yeah.
They're not signing on the dot, but then they're not also blinking on the call. So you think, well, that's definitely the right sort of
we're close,
area. Yeah. Like if you charge a lot less than what we're charging, then I think it would be too cheap.
Yeah.
If you charge a lot more than what we're charging, it'd be too expensive. So I do feel like we've hit.
We're in the right range.
Yeah, we're in the right range. Definitely.
We got paid.
We did, and we're still here.
We got
the lights
paid.
are on.
The lights are on. This is where if we had those bells, we'd ring them. We'd be like ding a ding a ding a ding a ding.
Yeah, that was a stressful couple of days.
Dude, that was stressful.
That was a stressful couple
It feels
of days.
so good.
And I said in the last episode I wasn't sleeping. I was genuinely not sleeping.
Yeah.
The fact that Friday came and it started to figure itself out, I was like, okay, I can now breathe and actually like go back to living a normal life.
Yes.
Briefly.
It makes such a difference. And also the crazy thing is as well is that like this isn't even money for us.
I know.
Like when we're like,
but that's what I was saying to you like last time. It's like that's when more pressure's on you. It's like I can deal with not paying myself.
Yeah.
As can you. It's when you're trying to pay everyone else.
That is true.
That's
but it's important to note that when we're like, oh, we've been paid, it's like we're not even taking money out of the business.
That's true. Yeah.
When we say we've been paid,
the
we
business
mean
has been paid.
Yeah. The business has been paid.
Barney's been paid.
Barney's been paid.
Basically.
The rent's been paid.
Yeah.
Or Barney will be paid.
Yeah.
Barney's sitting there thinking, we haven't actually
pre-ordered 5 bags of rice.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, then you learned. Good.
But no, so yes, it's definitely very, very good to be paid, and it just takes a lot of the pressure off.
It does, and things are looking really bright.
They're looking really positive,
off the back of it, which is crazy. This is what we were talking about the highs and lows of running a business. On Thursday evening, things were looking a bit gloomy. I wasn't sleeping well. I was just like stressed about money.
Yeah.
And then you come to today, and you're like, wow, okay, we're completely the other side of the coin. Completely the other side of the coin. Like the prospects are huge. What's happened in just the last few days, it's like,
so
wow.
For context, one of the things that we've been looking at doing, which I think we might have touched on in last week's episode, but we're going to be launching a B2C arm of our studio. So right now,
which is business to consumer.
Yes. So right now our business is purely B2B, business to business. So we're only serving other businesses. So we're offering a production package for companies. We then film it, edit it, give them all the content as a kind of all-inclusive deal. But we're now going to be opening up another arm to the business, which will be offering anyone who has a podcast or wants to record in the room to use our studio. We're going to be offering that as another arm of the business, which should be quite good.
It'll be really exciting. So if you're listening and you are thinking about starting your own podcast, we'll put a link in the description to below, and you kind of check out our website and have a look at what we can offer. But it's basically a much better product for less price than the competition.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. We have
simple.
We have like customizable LEDs, as you can see here on the desk, so you can change the color of these lights. You can change the image, obviously, on the TV. You wouldn't have to do your podcast with our logo on it. So you can put your own like logo and branding on the TV, and also the ornamentation behind me here. So like, if you want to put like different ornaments and stuff on the shelving, you can do that too. So it's a lot more customizable than the competition as well.
Definitely.
Is nice.
Which is really ironic. You'd think other podcast studios would have done that.
They don't do it like we do, baby.
They don't.
They don't.
Not the ground floor way. Not the ground floor way. Yeah, that's true. That's exciting. So we're launching that in the next couple of days, which will be really cool.
It can be really exciting. I think it's also another way to, because obviously at the beginning when you're starting a business, the main thing is you're worried about covering costs, as we've established quite heavily. When it comes to paying rent, paying staff, you want to make sure that you can cover costs. So having another revenue stream will be really it will be really exciting. I hadn't even thought of it like that, actually. We're now at the point where we've got the cost covered and we're profitable, and now we're just like, okay, how do we add strings to our bow? How do we get more money coming in? I hadn't thought about it like that. It's literally until now. That's crazy. Yeah, but it is true. It is. No, I know. So there's a cool. Should we talk about the forecast? Because I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, yeah. So we were crunching the numbers. Which, by the way, if you had said that to me when we set this up 3 months ago, I would have said you're smoking something, and I'll have a bit of it. Yeah, 100%. That's your favorite phrase as well. That's your favorite phrase. Like, I don't know what you're smoking, but I'll have a bit of it. No, it's crazy. Like to think that we're here. We could potentially be here where we are now. Exactly. At the end of the month I wouldn't have thought that 3 months ago. It was an insight into someone's life. It was amazing. an email.
Can't wait to see how you phrase it. This is going to be the good stuff,
This is
right?
prime politician moment here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do the politician hand movement. You know, this thing with the thumb and the.
What is that?
It's what all politicians do.
What's that?
You know this, obviously. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
They all politicians. Yeah, whenever they're giving a speech, they put their thumb, like they kind of
Yeah.
hold their fingers like that, and they put their thumb on top of their fingers,
Okay.
and they sort of go, "Look, duh."
Okay, all right. That,
And I will do
recognise
this,
that,
and I will
yeah.
bring change, and I'm this. You know.
Okay.
We got an we
Say it, Barney. Say it.
we what?
No, I just really want to clip him doing
Oh,
the
right.
politician
We
thing.
will. We will make podcasts, and we will make content. We got it. Okay, someone that we pitched for our services, who came about as a result of the lead gen that we did. We pitched them, and
I wouldn't even go as far as to say we pitched them. I mean, like,
Okay,
let's
all right.
let's be honest. I wouldn't go as far as that.
we went in to pitch them,
We went in, yeah, true. We went in with good intentions to pitch them,
and we came out. Sometimes when you're on a call with a prospect, they will end up. Some people like to talk more than others. Sometimes you go onto a call with a prospect and they're very much like, "Hey, what's the situation? What's the service? What do you do? How much does it cost? What do I get for it? Can you do this? Can you do that?" Bish bash bosh. Sometimes they like to go, "Yeah, because things with me, I'm sort of a," and then they sort of just they just go on.
Yeah.
And some of them
Sometimes they can go on for about an hour, and, just and not go anywhere with it.
So we had a call with someone who did go on for a very long time. And
It was north of an hour and a half.
was it an hour and a half?
It was north of an hour
wasn't
and a
it?
half, yeah.
It was because I had a meeting.
Because we had to jump on a second one.
Yeah. So, wait, you talking about the second call?
No. I just be the second
second-
one of the same day because our free trial had ended with that
Oh, of
first
course,
call.
yeah.
So we had to jump on the second call just to put it in perspective.
Well, essentially, yeah, and we had to push back another meeting as well.
We did, yeah.
Basically, but it seemed like it was going to be good. Essentially,
No, I would be honest with you. I told you.
I know.
I literally told the minute we got off the call, I said, dude, my bullshit meter is telling me stay away.
I know,
we
but
we need to stay away.
I'm hiring openness, and you're
Like-
hiring conscientiousness. And so because this is one of those things where because I'm hiring openness, I'm more like, I don't know, there could be, I don't know.
Yeah.
I see the, and you're more the pragmatic of like, I don't think this is going up through.
Yeah.
And you were right. But I think that in that situation, I was like, look, it's something kind of quirky, and something kind of interesting, and it could lead to something kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I also can admit that it
Granted.
obviously will not. In this
Not
case,
necessarily, the door's open.
the door is
The door
open.
is still open.
For
free.
I wasn't going to say that.
I was going to say that. He's not watching. Let's keep it real, okay?
We pitched our services on this call, and he wanted a very particular arrangement. And I said, look, we can accommodate you as much as possible in this way, but this is kind of our line of what we can accommodate for what you would like. And
You're doing a very good job, actually.
Thank
I'll give
you.
you that. You're doing a very good job because no one would know who this is.
Right.
If they're watching, they wouldn't know it's them.
Right.
Anyway.
Does it matter if they know it's them? It's as long as
Absolutely not.
It's
No,
as long as
we're
we're
not
not.
working with
But
them.
it's not. It's not as long as we're not exposing them and their name and what they did to everyone. It's fine,
That is
right?
true.
Who
That is
gives a
true.
fuck if they're watching this and they're like,
that's
oh, I
true.
think this might be me.
In general, yeah. So he was a bit of a character, let's say that. And we went on the call, ended up running for like an hour and a half, and he's just telling us thing after thing after thing after thing. And I keep trying to kind of slowly pivot back to like, okay, let's get something firm in. Seemed really positive. He was like, yeah, great. And I said, look, this is our bottom line. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. If you think that will work, great. He then came back to us after about a week and was like, oh, you know, wait, you know, just and was like loving the idea, you know. And then he said, could you maybe work on the price like more like this? And I said, honestly, man, look, I'll be so real with you. I've got staff to pay. We've got costs. Like, this is the bare minimum I can do for you. And I literally went I was like, anything less than this, I can't pay staff. So I cannot physically do lower than that. I'm not trying to like gouge you. I'm not even making any money off this side of it. But I'm actually legit. Ironically, I was like, I'm actually legitimately backing what you would like to do. He had like this grand vision for his creation, what he thought it could be for him, and I was happy to kind of go along with that and to try and make something cool out of it. But I did have a minimum threshold to make it worth our time because it's still a business. And I did express that, we're a newish company and blah, blah, blah. He then came back and was like, well, can you do lower than that? I said, look, man, I don't think I can, but, would love to work with you, blah, blah, blah. And then we got an email from him today. And
we need to give some context into.
It's just really hard, man, because we can't.
I know that.
The context, but the tone.
But it's not very often you meet people like that.
No, it's not.
So it's interesting to anybody that's watching or listening that you can actually interact like that.
The tone of the email was very much, you guys have no idea what you're dealing with here. I am a pretty big deal. It was literally like a Ron Burgundy from Anchorman type email. It was like, my apartment smells like rich mahogany. Dude, just the feeling when we can take money out and put it into our own account for the first time after, we started working on the idea for this before the agency and everything else. The podcast alone, we had the idea in August last year. Yeah. So it's been like over a year, and we've put so much blood, sweat and tears into this, building the studio and figuring out the logistics and trying to find clients and get sponsors and all this kind of stuff. It's so much work. And so to get to the point where we can finally have a month where you just see that little Monzo notification and it just says like plus something from, our company name. And it's like, whoa, really that's real money that I can use to buy food, and I can put petrol in my car, and I can like give my mum a little something, like that's real now.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh dude, I've started my own business. But like at some point it's just, spent more money this month. Well, spent more money this month. Well, spent more money this month. What about next month? I'm going to spend more.
I've been doing the accounts for the business, and every single like itemized thing I go through, it makes me smile because I'm like, I remember getting those horrible like dungeon curtains that we were putting up at the studio, and then like getting everything refunded from Amazon. I was just like, as I'm going through, I'm just smiling to myself. I'm like, well, partly it's scary just how much money we've actually gone put into this business.
I just prefer to think about it.
Yeah, don't.
I really prefer. Really, just don't look it directly in the eye.
When you got to go through every line by line, you're like, this is quite bleak now. Yeah, but it's funny though when you look at it and all the moments of like building this thing.
Yeah,
it's funny.
So I think we should talk about where we're going to go next. What's the plan? Like where we are based on now. So I think from my perspective, I think we've just launched the studio. I think the first port of call is obviously to get people in the studio, renting it by the hour. We're going to run some ads on socials for that. We've also got a bunch of content coming out, which this is really interesting. I'm really excited to see where we get with that, because we've had so many short form clips from all the episodes that we've done, both for this show and for the actual podcast itself. And we haven't been putting them out. And Barney, being the absolute soldier in the trenches that he is, has just been for the past 2 days you've done?
I've done between 60 and 70 shorts in the last 2 days.
And that means he has like found the episode, found the point of the episode where the short happens, cut it up so that all the dead space is gone, added B-roll, then he's captioned every single one of them with text and exported them and put them on a drive. That is an insane amount. But as a result of that, I captioned like another, 15 something shorts, 30 shorts. So we've now got a hell of a lot of content, short form content that we're going to put out. And don't forget, this is the great thing about making content. If you make 60 shorts, that's 60 shorts for TikTok, then it's also 60 reels for Instagram, and 60 shorts for YouTube, and 60 shorts for Facebook Reels as well. True. Because you can cross post from Insta. So that becomes like 240 shorts. I'm trying to think what else is like an update in terms of like, it feels like today we had quite a productive day.
But that was, we did. But it wasn't really like update worthy.
Yeah, true.
Other than...
I built the website, I guess, over the last week.
Yeah.
I got the new website done.
Yeah, true. There could be a pretty influential guest coming on the podcast. We can leave it at that.
That is true. There could be
a pretty influential guest coming on the podcast.
There could be a pretty big guest coming on the podcast, which is exciting.
That's very exciting if that comes through.
Yeah.
If that comes through. Which we're both in our heads setting it up as like, oh yeah, that's going to happen.
No, I'm assuming it's not going to.
I know I am as well, if I'm being realistic, but I'm still just...
But if it does.
It does. Taste
mad.
But other than that, I don't think today there's been there's not really many updates coming from today. We've just been basically working our way through to-do lists today and getting work done.
I'm curious over the next week or so because one thing I was saying earlier is that we're at a point now where the last few weeks have been really setup heavy.
Yes.
So we've had to front load a lot of things. We've had to like make websites and refine offers and set up lead gen and you know, we it's been a lot of stuff, you know, changing new domains and getting signature, you know, it's been a lot of like upfront, we need to get stuff set up, you know, new processes, you know, Barney's role is changing slowly and, you know, he's kind of leveling up in what he's doing. So there's been a lot of like upfront stuff. And so I'm actually really excited to get back into the swing of things where it's like, okay, from like next week-ish, it will be like, okay, we'll have like a basic sales script.
Yeah.
The leads will be going out. You know, Barney will be, you know, up to date and clear on what he like needs to be doing. You'll know what you'll need to be doing. I'll know what I need to be doing. And then it's like, oh, okay, cool. Then we can just get back to going through the motions and just putting the work in and scaling up rather than building, because we've been building for the past couple of weeks.
Right. And it's going to be nice to actually get to the point where we're just scaling as opposed to putting the building blocks in place.
And we'll keep iterating and we'll keep building alongside. You know, there might be like a new software that we end up using or a new bit of this, bit of that. But like, we've basically revamped, rebranded, and reiterated our entire business in the past few weeks.
You're right.
So it's been very, you know, and we haven't done any client calls or not client calls. We haven't done any pitches or anything like that in the last week.
What do you think is going to be the hardest part of the coming month with the new offering that we've got and the clients that we're looking to speak with? In your opinion, I can give it my opinion, but in your opinion, what do you think is going to be the hardest part of the coming month?
The hardest part. It's a tough one, but I'd say probably counting all the money.
Good. I like that. That's a nice problem to have.
No, in all seriousness, I don't know. The hardest part, probably. I actually there's nothing that's really standing out to me as like that's going to be a hard mountain to climb. It's all just stuff that we're going to have to suck at a little bit and get better at. Like with the sales script, for example. You know, I'm confident in my abilities as a closer, but I also like, you know, don't have much experience in recent years of, you know, making a script and refining it in XYZ. So I'm not thinking, oh my God, that's going to be so hard. It's like, I'm going to put a script together and I'm going to test it, try it, and I'll just keep tweaking it and iterating it, and it will eventually get better and better. With the lead gen, it's like, oh, you know, if the leads are going out, we're tweaking our email, our script is good, it will slowly get better and better. When you want to order a book or a DVD, you can go to HMV's website, but you're going to Amazon.
True.
You're just going to Amazon.
Even if it's a bit more.
Even if it's a bit more. And A, it won't be. And B, it will get to you faster. And it's Amazon. It's just like, why? Maybe if I go... Nah, just go to Amazon.
Yeah.
Just fucking prime it.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you want like a creative laptop and you're like, oh, I want a laptop for my, you know, 17-year-old son. He's into graphic design. Just get him a MacBook. Well, we could. There are good PCs. There absolutely are good PCs. But just get him a fucking MacBook. It will be, that's perfect. Just don't think about it.
True.
You want to get to that point where it's like, oh, you want to do a podcast? Yeah, dude, just go to the ground floor. Really? Yeah. But what about, dude, just trust me. You're going to be chasing your tail, fiddling around with SD cards, and, you know, that's the other thing. You record it anywhere else, you have to bring your own SD cards and get the, you know, and if you want the file to be sent to you, you have to pay
for that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I remember when we started recording
Shocked.
at another studio, we if you didn't bring your own SD cards, which cost like fucking 65 quid a pop, by the way, and if you have 3 cameras and a microphone, that's like over, you know, 150 odd quid that you're spending on cards. But if you didn't have your own cards and you wanted to just like record it on their cards and have them send you the file, just to transfer you the file, 30 quid.
It's crazy how quickly it adds up.
It adds up, man.
It really does.
So, you know, to be able to say like, yeah, if you go to the ground floor, you don't have to worry about fiddling about with SD cards. You don't have to fiddle around with any of the tech. They've got someone in the room. He takes care of everything for you. All the edits, you'd have to download Adobe Premiere Pro and learn how to use that, or Final Cut. Okay, I think I can figure out. Dude, hey, how do you get the audio to get... None of that bullshit. I've got my... You know the image of my face, but how do I make it... Because it's going black when I try to do it, but I did paste it. All of that finicky bullshit.
All goes.
Just all gone.
Damn.
But we want something for our social media and stuff. Yeah, dude, done. But we want clips with the... How do you put the text on the clip so they can see the subtitle? Done. We have shorts with captions, subtitles, cuts. All the dead space cut out. Full edit, done. Logo popped on. Yeah. TV, done. Like, everything done.
Everything is just slick. Really slick.
And that kind of brings out that, like... You know that, like, exciting, like... competitive, like, entrepreneurial, like, warlord kind of spirit in you where you're like, I want to be the best. I want to take down the competition.
Yeah.
If this is fucking war, I want to have the best product. I want to serve the most people. I want to bring the most value.
We found a way to do it.
And we found a way to do it. So now it's just a question of getting it out there. I've pumped myself up by talking about this now.
Yeah,
you know?
pumped me up.
You pumped up, Bun?
Yeah. Barney's typing more aggressively now, so yeah, he's bumped up as well.
Just slamming his keyboard.
Yeah, exactly.
We hit 1,000 subs.
We hit 1,000 subs. We did, man. Did.
It's been a long road. You get a high five for that too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I can't high five you. I'll give you an air high five. Let's go for that.
Took us 11 months.
It's 11 easy months.
11. It was a breeze.
To get to 1,000 subs. Yeah, YouTube doesn't make it easy, man.
No,
it does not make it easy.
But we were 500 like 3 months ago.
We were. Yeah.
So that's interesting. The first 6 months took us. And also, how long did it take us to get to 100?
Yeah, I don't actually know.
I feel like it took us like
a
few months.
I'm just gonna see if I can find that out now.
Yeah.
When we first signed Furniture Box,
we were at 50? I think.
50.
That was April, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was April.
It was April.
Yeah, so it took us January, February, March, 3 months.
3 months.
3 or 4 months to get to 50 subscribers.
Yeah,
and then it would have taken us, because then they were with the 3 months, and then we 10x'd by the time their contract came up.
Yeah.
So it was 3 months. So that takes us to April, May, June, basically.
So it took us 3 months to get our first 50 subs.
Yeah.
It took us another 3 months to get from 50 to 500. And then it took us another 3 months to get from 500. It took us another 3 months to get from 500 to 1,000.
Yeah. Which is where we are now.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It is fucking cool,
It
man.
is.
Seeing that thing on the YouTube Studio app that says like you're eligible for the YouTube partner
yeah.
program.
That
was like,
that's a moment.
that is
a moment. That is like a moment for 11 months in the making. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, that needs to,
through blood, sweat, and tears,
Yeah.
just crawling and scraping your fingernails
I know.
to get to the edge.
it does feel good to finally get there. To have built a YouTube channel that's got to 1,000 subscribers, like that's a lot of people don't get that far. Some people do, as we've discussed, by like reviewing stupid shit.
Yeah.
But a lot of
or
people
me
don't.
getting to 1,000 in 2 weeks inexplicably.
Yeah, I like exactly. I just don't. That
I remember when
just
that
doesn't make
happened.
sense. Like,
When
I
that
don't
happened,
see why.
and then we were talking about it. And we went for a walk like the next day, and you were like, "Can't lie, man, it kind of fucked with me because we've been putting so much work in."
Yeah, of course it did.
And then
Who wouldn't? You have to be human. You have to be like, no.
it was so funny. Which, of course, yeah, of course.
But it also makes no sense why that is the case.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely no
I know.
sense at all.
Yeah, I was just talking in my
No
car.
one can answer that.
No, but it is what it is. I do think one of the things that we've learned, or at least I've reflected on with this in the last like month, is that it's definitely not a coincidence that in the month that we've been going insanely ham with YouTube Shorts, that is what has taken us over the line.
How many times have I said to you, dude, we need to be getting shorts out? We need to be doing short form. And you're like, yeah, it's coming.
Yeah,
we'll get it done. Yeah. And it's like, and now we finally got it done.
What, sorry? Do you want to cut them?
Yeah, that's fair. I will give you that. I will give you that, buddy. I will give you that. But you're right. There's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence at all. Like the fact that it's, the content has aligned with us growing. Yeah, it's not a coincidence.
And also, Barney's picked up a couple of tips recently that he's figured out himself that has had a massive impact on the views for them, which has made a big difference. But yeah, realizing like the way that Barney's been editing them has been ridiculous.
It has. It's been really good.
Been sick.
Yeah. Kudos to you, man.
And no worries. I was actually talking to another podcast creator about this yesterday, and I was basically like showing them stats for their shorts and showing them stats for ours, and they're a much bigger channel. And I was like, this is what our views are doing. And they were like, how is that the case? And I was like, because it's the way you're making the shorts.
Yeah.
And so it is really, really cool to see that like that kind of work has paid off.
Definitely. Because I mean, like the quality of the content we're putting out now is incomparable to the content we were putting out in our first couple of episodes.
Yeah,
incomparable.
It also shows how in the beginning we thought like, didn't we say by the end of the year we were going to be on like 10K or something?
Yeah, so we were sat in your car end of last year, end of 23.
Yeah,
and I was saying to you like, okay, like we should put some goals in place for the business.
End of 23.
End of 22.
Right.
End of 22. Like, where do we want to get to with the business and this kind of stuff? We should put some goals in place, financial goals. And I said to you, I was like, right, look, by the end of 2023, we need to be doing 10K a month.
Yeah.
Like, that is our goal.
Yeah.
We didn't quite get there.
Nope.
But hey, you like shoot for the moon and then.
Was that 10K a month? I forgot. Was it 10K a month from the podcast?
Well, that's all we had at the time.
Yes, it was. Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
At the time. So it was 10K a month from, it was going to be from the podcast, which was ambitious.
Yeah.
Slash that is a lesson that has been learned as well. But this is the thing. It's like with this sort of content, who knows where this could be this time next year? Is the truth.
That's true.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Literally,
man?
It could go anywhere.
It could go literally anywhere.
Literally either way. We don't know. There've been quite a few highlights, and it's been up and it's been down. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think the podcast has been mostly down. We've obviously made it to where we are now, and we've got to this point, and like kudos to us for doing that. But I think we would all agree that actually the losses have definitely outweighed the wins in terms of frequency. Not in terms of, I suppose, level. Like
Yeah.
the wins have been massive. We've had lots of little losses, I think.
Yeah,
To get to this point.
I would definitely agree with you on that. It's definitely I think if there's one thing that I've learned more than anything else, it's that, and I say this as someone who even before this podcast was doing another podcast. So I was already doing a podcast for like a couple months, 2-3 months before that. So I already had some experience in it. But I think one thing I've learned off the back of doing that, and now much more extensively off the back of doing this, it's that for people that think a podcast is easy and it's just, yeah, you rent a studio, you sit down with your mate, have a little conversation, and then you do it for long enough, the views just start coming in, really.
If anyone who thinks that is never going to make a good podcast.